You know what's great? Vikings. You know what's even better? Dishonorable warfare. Fighting fairly? Ugh, cringe. The only valid tactics in warfare are to utterly prank your opponents so hard they destroy themselves while you sit on the sidelines laughing the whole time. That's what we're talking about when it comes to Lukas the Trickster, a character I've read about after being bombarded a lot with suggestions to actually talk about him in my comment sections, and I gotta say, he's kind of the coolest. This character has very, very quickly become my favorite Space Wolf character. I adore him. He's my exact character type. Like if I was playing a 40k tabletop game, he's the Space Marine I would make. It's really fun to see that represented in lore. It's so cool.
A very special thank you to my channel members who make all these videos possible.
But Lukas the Trickster, Lukas Jackal Wolf, the Laughing One, Lukas Strife's son, he's known by many names. He collects them, each name having a different saga. Lukas the Trickster is in the Blood Claws company, which, for those that don't know, the Blood Claws is the company you're put in inside of the Space Wolves. That is where neophytes are put into. Literally right once all the organs are put in, like you become a scout marine, as in fresh, brand new babyface marines, so they can act out all their young warrior impulses in a safe space before they have real responsibilities being put on their shoulders. He hasn't reached a promotion. This is despite the fact that he has more combat prowess than a hefty chunk of the Wolf Lords. Why hasn't he reached a promotion? He doesn't care. He's just not interested. He's too rebellious. He's too anarchistic. He just doesn't give a shit. He's too busy being Lukas. He's vibing in his own little space, man. I don't know. He's having a great old time. And to be completely honest, even if he tried to go get a promotion, I don't think he'd get one anyways, because the Wolf Lords don't even want him under his service because of the pranks. Like the time he put a bunch of blood lice in Bjorn Stormwolf's Terminator armor, an act that almost got him beaten to death with Bjorn's bare hands. Or the time he locked some Inquisitors in a pen of some Fenrisian wildlife during their mating season. Or the time he decided to just spike another Wolf Lord's ale with some stronger poison, because Fenrisian ale is just lethal poison, but alcohol to a Space Marine. And again, he gets away with this because he's a very good warrior. You send him at a problem, he's gonna fucking solve it. Fun fact, he actually kind of does serve under different Space Marines, which I'll touch on a little bit more later. This is done under a traditional act that they do, where the Wolf Lords fight each other over who will have charge over Lukas. They do this by beating each other. They kick each other's ass barehanded. Whoever yields first has to deal with Lukas for a season, which I think is hysterical. And to be fair, Lukas does too. He also thinks this is funny. This doesn't just stop at the Space Wolves. He also does this to his opponents, because unlike many other Space Marines, Lukas fights with his head. He fights dirty. He's done many, many goofy tactics, like the time he pretended to be an orc and he faked some transmissions in a giant orc warband and created a massive civil war, created intense infighting in between the clan, destroying it. Or the time he had to deal with a traitorous sect of the Adeptus Mechanicus, the Dark Mechanicum, and put them in a situation where they all got infected with a necrovirus that they created. Or the time he baited a word-bearer Chaos Lord into invading Fenris. He just full on was baiting the shit out of him, getting him riled up for a duel, got him to land on the Sea of Lost Souls, but the landing zone that he got him to land on was a particularly thin stretch of ice. So when he landed and all of the Space Marines came out on the ice, it cracked, they fell in the sea and all drowned. Lukas oftentimes solves his problems without fighting, which is hysterical. He can fight, by the way. He can kick some serious ass. But honestly, what's the fucking point? Why would you do this when there's the objectively funnier option sitting right there if you just think for a couple minutes? And it's this aspect of Lukas that I really enjoy because I really like Norse shit. I have me some Scandinavian heritage. I've looked into it a good amount. And I don't think it's that much of a stretch to say that Lukas here, good old Lukas the Trickster, gives me some very serious Loki vibes. Though I will say, when I say Loki vibes, I mean like the character archetype and how he's represented, not actually like the real historical Loki from like the prose and the poetic Edda, because a lot of historical context and the fact that the Loki that we know in history is fragmented from a very Christian context, and most of the context we have is lost and destroyed.
I'll be real. I went back after recording, and this original part was pretty rough. I overanalyzed something that I later realized is kind of just very surface level. So I'm going to point by point just better explain what I didn't do very well. Okay, so the actual comparisons I think you can make with Loki when it comes to Lukas are, firstly, the appearance. I think their appearance when it comes to the original classical versions between Lukas and Loki is pretty significant. They look relatively similar. The archetype itself of being the trickster that gets out of situations very creatively, or gets into situations that then spiral out of control and then is solved creatively, they have a lot of crossover in that aspect. They are held in the exact same regard by their peers. They are hated by everyone around them, and yet they do happen to solve most of the issues that come around. They inflict a lot of chaos, and yet, much like Loki, solves all the problems of the Aesir whenever he causes a lot of shenanigans. Lukas also, whenever some bullshit comes up, he does solve them pretty handily with a bit of creative thinking and a bit of hard work. As well, I think the biggest stretch I can make here is that one thing Lukas does is when the Wolfguard actually fight over who's going to take charge of him, the loser takes him, he actually shapeshifts his form, so that way he gives them what he truly believes each Jarl needs. Loki being a very famous shapeshifter, I think this is the biggest stretch that I can make here, but those are at least the best connections I can make. However, I will also be very honest when I say the inspiration here is most likely very surface level. I think trying to examine it on a deeper mythological and historical context is giving Games Workshop a little too much credit.
Other than that, Lukas is just hysterical. I'll be honest, whenever he pops up in the excerpts I've been reading and just in his book. For example, here's another just funny part of him. One time he had to deal with some Dark Eldar. He had gotten in a fight with a Dark Eldar prince who cut out his secondary heart. Obviously he survived this, and he decided, never again. So instead of getting a new heart to replace it, he instead replaced this with what is known as a stasis bomb. This is a piece of Dark Age of Humanity tech that the Dark Angels have, and they deny that they have this. They use this is a bomb that after it explodes, it slows down time. Normally, this is used to grab people and take them back to the rock for interrogation. Now obviously, Lukas doesn't really need this, as he's not a Dark Angel. Instead, this is rigged in his chest, so if his main heart ever stops beating, it explodes, killing the person who, kills him. However, as a final prank, his killer is now forced in stop time to stare at Lukas's big, dumb, smiling face forever, which is the best final joke he could ever play. A lot of, if you play the tabletop, so many models have a explode on death. I think this is the best one, to be completely honest. The final little tidbit I want to give is the time, around the era of the Indominus Crusade, the time Lukas the Trickster absolutely pranked Magnus. Used Magnus's absolute arrogance in the moment and just pranked him so hard, just outsmarted him, and also very funnily in this moment, the whole time being like, this guy could kill me with a glance. But looked at a Primarch and was like, I gotta press those buttons. I gotta make fun of him. I gotta poke, because he's so rebellious. He's so anarchistic. He cannot help himself. I'm not gonna fully sit here and detail out the entire situation. I linked an excerpt in the description. Just go read it. It's really fun. Now, some people say that this scene is bad, and that Magnus is all out of character, and he should have just murdered Lucas with the glance. He's all powerful. He's being all dumb here. Oh, plot armor, whatever. And I say this as a giant Thousand Sun fanboy. A giant Magnus the Red simp. When, I gotta say, Lucas stays winning. This shit was really funny. Stay mad. Like, I don't give a shit. Magnus deserved this. There's not much else I can say about this, to be completely honest. Lucas is a very simple character, and I hope he gets more books. I want another one. Give me more Lucas content. He's the best. But yeah, that's about it. Yeah, if you like this, like, comment, subscribe, join my membership, and see ya.